Waalaikumsalam. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, Doctor.
How are you guys? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah, we'll begin with our first chapter for database management system. But just before we proceed, I want to make sure with Muhammad Nawfal, have you taken the attendance or not yet?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, thank you so much, Muhammad. After today's attendance, please send it to my email, and next week, inshallah, you can update the same file and you can send it, the update file for me again. Guys, so without further delay, so we can finish it as soon as possible. So guys, are you able to see my screen? Hi guys, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's okay, Doctor.
So the chapter today in which we are going to talk about this book. The book name is Database Systems, Design, Implementation, and Management. If you can guys Google this book, you'll find it as PDF. It will have more examples, it will have more explanation. So inshallah, when we start from the next week doing the group blended learning thing, it will, if you can download the book, and I will try to download it as a reference, operation, and for between data and information. What is the difference between the two? And how come a database come in between these two? So what database like of data and information? What is data for a database? What is information for a database? And also be talking about some types of databases. And why databases are so important, and their design. Why the design is important, and why database is important for us as end users, as decision makers, and so on. Also, we're talking about how modern databases evolved from file systems. Also, we're talking about some of the flaws or limitations in the file system data management, and what are the main components of database system, and how it is different from a file system. And at the end, we'll be talking about the main thing which we are going to use in this course, which is database management system as a software. Definition derived from raw facts. Data managed most efficient file system, understanding file system characteristics important. So usually what we are trying to say is here, whenever you have any decisions to make, whether it is like an organizational decision, whether it is like academic decision, it must be built on facts. And these facts, sometimes you have to extract them from raw data. For example, I have my diploma students, which I'm teaching database, you guys. So I have 25 of you out of 30 already scoring A in my course. So the fact I can get from this data or from your result that the majority are excellent in database. So this is a decision I made, or this is a conclusion I came to based on my information, based on my raw facts, based on the marks, based on whatever contribution you guys have been doing in the semester. So these kind of decisions are good because I can start making implications, I can start making my own decisions, I can start making my own improvement, my own adjustment, and this kind of stuff. So data managed most efficiently when stored in a database. What do we mean by that? Yeah, if I have, let's say, your student monitor data, I think his name is Muhammad. Yeah. If I have Muhammad Naufal data written in front of me, I have his file. Already his file is with me. His file contains his personal details, his marks, his admission details, everything about Muhammad. So if I want to go through this data, it might be easy for me if I only have Muhammad as my student. But at the same time, if I have Muhammad, and I have Noor Aida, and I have Shahida, and I have Rosna, and I have all these students, we have different, so many students. So if I want to locate one information, it will be sometimes difficult for me or time consuming. I will not be able to manage their data more efficiently. I cannot, let's say, control all the data. Imagine now I only have 30 students. If I want to manage your data, if I want to go through your data, it's going to take lots of time and efforts from me. And at the end of the day, I am a human being. I am prone to errors. I might make an error. I might overlook something or forget something. However, when you have this kind of data, this kind of big data stored in databases, not only you can view them, you can even adjust, you can do the management, you can update more efficiently and without, losing anything. So that's what we mean by most efficiently managed data when it's stored in database. We have also databases evolved from computer file systems. So at the end of the days, before we have something called computer file system where they store their data. But there were some issues. There were some problems in these kind of computer file systems. That's why databases were evolved from these computer file systems. We'll be talking more about these two in details. And also the characteristics of a file system is important. Why it is important? Because later on when we start managing our data, when we start pre-processing, processing our data, understanding the characteristics of your data will be important for organizing, for updating, for everything. So data versus information. So data are the raw facts, meaning what? It is like the original shape of your information. So it is like the original stuff. So the information in that regard, it is the result of processing raw data to reveal a meaning. Meaning what? I have data for Muhammad, for example. I have Muhammad height and I have Muhammad weight. Weight and height are only raw facts. It is already there. But from these two, what can I get if I have someone height and someone weight? What can I get, guys? If I have your height, if I can measure your height and I can measure your weight, what is the outcome? What can I do with these two so I can get something new?
MBI measurement.
Come again?
I forgot. Is it MBI or BMI?
BMI.
Yeah, BMI. Yeah, thank you, Muhammad. So this is correct. Yeah. So I can get your BMI. So a BMI is an information that I extracted from your raw data, for example. Okay. Another, let's say, example. mm, Your raw data, let's say, for example, is your, let's say, mark. Your mark in the exam, let's say in the final exam, it's like 60. And your carry mark, another raw fact is like out of 40 for your final exam. So here I can get information that you are a good student in this particular subject because you scored more than 80. So this is how what we mean by data and information. Data is something that is raw, that is a fact, and information it is something that you can understand or you can get as a new information based on the data. So the information requires context to reveal meaning. Raw data must be formatted for storage, processing, and presentation. So as we said, the information, it will require specific context, it will specific direction so it can have a meaning. So I know the BMI is information because I started to do calculations between the two, between the height and the weight. So I know the meaning. But for the raw data, I just keep it because it will be, let's say, easier for me for the storage, and later on I can process it, and I can do the presentation. So data are the foundation of information, which is the bedrock of knowledge. Yeah, that's. So data also versus information. Data building blocks of information. Okay. Information produced by processing data, as we said. Information used to reveal meaning in data. So this kind of information, it will be produced as accurate, relevant, timely information. And at the same time, they are the product of your data and they will be used in good decision making. And at the end of the day, when you have good decision making, when you have good leadership, when you have good decisions at your organization is going to survive. Okay, so now we are talking about the introduction of database and Dbms. What is the difference between database and Dbms? Database is how you store your data, is what you store your data. Database management system, it is your database beside the software, and in addition to the software you are going to use to manipulate, to alter, to change your database. So database, it will be shared, integrated computer structure that stores collection of data. It will have the raw facts and all of these kind of data. So also we have something called metadata. So metadata is like something confusing. It is data about data. Now, that doesn't make any sense. So what do you mean by data about data? So it is confusing in a way that not necessarily, meaning if we have something called metadata, metadata is just like small description of your data. What is the characteristics of your data? If I have as weight, so I know that everything will be in my data will be in pound, in kilogram, in gram, in this kind of stuff. So metadata will show you what is the nature of your data, the characteristics to be exact. Okay, so and also you have the database management system with programs. These programs will be used to start managing your data, structuring your data, and controlling access to this kind of data. So what are the roles of advantages of database management system? Okay, I am working as a, let's say, database administrator, or let's say, for example, I have my business and I want to create a database for my business. Can I start accessing my database immediately? I mean, can I just open the database, start adding information, start, let's say, deleting information with the main database? The answer is no. The database, sometimes it is not something physical. It is like a software. It is like a sort of information. So it is something, I mean, soft, like a, yeah, something like a soft copy of your submission, an online submission, or something that you cannot physically touch. So if you have something like this, especially if it was uploaded in a server, upload in the cloud, upload in online services, you need an intermediaries between you as a user and this database. And here comes the database management system. So it will be act as a liaison, as a connection between you and between your database. So you can start accessing the database, using the database, and adding to this database. So the database structure stores as file collection. So when you have a database, you will have different files. And in these files, you'll have different data. And this different data will have different characteristics. So there will be a different collection of data stored and as a part of your database structure. So also accessing the database. Okay. Another advantage of database management system, it will not make your database exclusive or hard to get to or hard to access. It will give your database like leverages. It will make it shareable. It will make it, online, easier to manage, easier to update, easier to maintain. So this is what the database management system does. It also will integrate many user views of the data, meaning what you will have different users and they will be having access to this kind of data. They will have their own views, they will have their own adjustment, they'll have their own files to upload, to download, to update, to modify. So we have here different users who are connected to your database, for example. This is your database, and this is the end users. The end user is me, you, because guys, we are only using the database. We are only using the database. So when you start, you will request for a data, and this request will go to the database management system. Then it will go check the data, view the data for you. And here we are using it as end user, and here also are using it online if we want to access the data online. So this is what the database management system, it will allow you as a local user and as the remote user to access this data. Okay, what are some of the other improvement advantages, sorry, for the database management system? The data sharing, the data security, the integration of data, the inconsistency of data. Guys, what do we mean by data inconsistency? You know what I mean? If you know what do you mean by this, please write for me in the chat. What do we mean by exactly data inconsistency? Guys, do you have any idea what data consistency is? Okay, for example, now I have one field in my database for what we call for your weight, for example. Okay, so in this data inconsistency, I come in this data and I want it only to be in kilogram. I enter it in kilogram, but another student come and he enter it in pound. No, not in pound. In what's the other measure for weight? I think pound, if I'm not mistaken. So another one come and give different measure for the weight. One use the gram, one is using the kilogram, one is using pounds. So this type of data is not consistent. We have inconsistency, meaning it is being used and entered into the database in different ways, even though all at the same time, we want the same thing. We want to give someone weight. We want to enter your weight. But all of us are not going to enter it in the same way. So this is called inconsistency. When I don't have consistent type of data being entered in my database. So when I have a database, it will only allow me to enter one type. So we will minimize the inconsistency. And then we'll be having more improved access, improved decision making, and more end user productivity. So type of databases. Databases can be classified according to number of user and database location and expected type and content of use. So we have single user database. It will only be for one user at all time. And this is called a desktop database. So this is the database for you, only for one user. It can be on your PC. So there is nothing special about this type of database. And we have the multi-user database. It will support that many users at the same time can use this database. And then we have another type of database, which is the work group database. It will be for small organization. And also you have the enterprise database, and it will support large number of, let's say example, large number of users or different kind of user. Like the one we have in OPSI. The one we have in OPSI is enterprise database. Why? Because it have many small databases inside it. We have one database for the student, one database for the international student, one database for the postgraduate student, one database for diploma, one database for master, one database for PhD, one database for undergraduate and degree. So we have so many databases, and they are all under OPSI database. So this is what our work and enterprise database is. Another type of database is centralized database. So the data here is located at single site, meaning what? If your data is only in one place, it's called centralized. It means the data is only stored in one server, in one, let's say, physical device. At the same time, if we have distributed databases, meaning that we have the database, but the database is not only in one site. The database is in many different places. And then we have the operational database. It will support the company day-to-day operation. So this is for, let's say, an operation sort of thing. It's also called transactional or production database. And we have the data warehouse. It will store the data used for tactical or strategic decisions. So these are different types of databases. Okay, then we have the unstructured data in their original state. So this is how the database is processing your data inside it. We have unstructured data, meaning the data is in the original form, and then you have the structured data. It means after formatting, after processing your data, after doing some sort of pre-processing. So also we have another type, which is semi-structured data, meaning the data is processed but not completely. And then we have the XML, extensible markup language. So when we have text format in our data, this is how is it going to be represented in your database using the XML language. And also you have the XML database, which can support both semi-constructed XML data. So these are only, let's say, new types. We don't really need to worry about them, but these data are the most important part. Okay, this is just a few of the different databases and the softwares. The database management system, it can deal with this. We have Microsoft Access, and we have Microsoft SQL Server, IBM. All these are database management software, and these are the type of databases they deal with. Okay, so now the database design, why is it important? The design of a database used for end user data. Designer must identify database expected use. Well-designed database will facilitate data management, generate accurate and valuable information, and the poorly designed database will cause difficulty to trace errors. So what you are trying to say here is, when you start creating your database design is really important. Why? Because I don't want to create a really large database for a small organization. It will not, it will be just a waste of resources. And at the same time, I don't want to create a small database for a large organization. It will be inefficient and it will be unprofessional and it will not stand with me. So designing the database, you need to consider who is your target audience, and you need to design your database well in a way that it will make more professional data management, and at the same time more valuable and accurate information and decisions can be extracted from this database. Okay, we have the historical root, file and file systems. Reason for studying file system: the complexity of database design, easier to understand. So this is why we are doing database instead of file and file system. Understanding file system problem help to avoid problem with DBS systems. So knowledge of file system is useful for converting file system to database system. So we have the file systems, and database are just a way of raising and eliminating the issues with file system. We need to have more problem-free, better design, more knowledge-based data file system. That's why database come as an updated way of doing this kind of thing. So the file system, in definition, they are composed of collection of file folders such as tagged and kept in cabinets. So these are what the file system is. Content of each file folder logically related. Manual system served as data repository for small data collection. Cumbersome for large collection if we have large data. Data processing specialist converted to file structure from manual system. No, data processing. Okay. Quality file system evolved. Each file is its own application program to store, retrieve, and modify data. So this is one of the problems with file systems. When you have one type of data, you need specific application for this type of data. And you cannot have one application using file system which can modify, deal with more at the same time with more than one type of data at the same time. And then we have the data processing manager, which is a supervised the data processing development. Okay. Then here we have just an example of a database. We have database, one field for your name, one field for your phone, one field for address. These type of data, if you can see here, are different. The first one is only text, XML or text data. The second one is only numbers. The third one is mixed between text and numbers. And the same goes. So in database management system, it must deal with this kind of challenges because you are dealing with different types of data. So here are some raw facts and terminologies for data, field, record, and file. I want you to go through them. What do we mean by them? Okay, let's see. A simple file system, file management program, customer file, sales file, file report program, file management program. So we have here in the file system, we have two different type of file, data. They are dealt with two different softwares. Okay, the file management program, the aging file, and the file report program. So this is what we mean in the file system. You need sometimes specific software for each file system type. So the file system is an improvement over manual systems. They are used for more than 2 decades. Understanding the shortcoming of file system aids in the development of modern databases. So that's why when we have database or database management system, it's like we are advancing the file system. It is like taking database management system, taking the file system one step ahead, advancing. and addressing all the previous issues. Even simple file system retrieval task required extensive programming, so it is complex. If you use the traditional file system, it's like complex. Also, the security features are difficult to program in a file system. So, what are the limitations? The main limitation for file systems: it will require extensive programming, cannot perform ad hoc queries, system administration complex and difficult, difficulty to make changes to existing structure, security feature likely to be inadequate. Okay, then we have structural and data dependence. Okay. Structure and dependence. Access to a file depends on its own structure. Okay, structure dependence, change structure. Okay. File definition, data dependency. We'll come back to this. And also the main information. Okay, what do you mean by data redundancy in database? Sometimes your data or the data you store might be redundant, might be replicated. So the file system structure make it difficult to combine data from multiple resources. So if I have one resource for student data from 2019 and I have another source for 2022, it will be difficult for file system to merge these two together, and we might have data in redundancy problem. And also the organizational structure promotes storage of the same data in different locations. Data stored in different locations unlikely to be updated consistently. Meaning what? Even if we are using file system and we are trying to update it, it will be difficult if we are using traditional file systems. And data redundancy, the same data stored unnecessarily in different places. The data inconsistency, different and conflicting versions of the same data occur at different places. And then we have what we call data anomalies. Data anomalies are the problem which happen in your file management system. We have update anomalies, insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies, and these will be entire chapter in our course. And then we have the database systems. So the database system consists of logically related data stored in a single logical data repository, meaning what? It is like, unlike file system, it is stored in one data repository or database systems. Maybe physically distributed among multiple storage facilities, so we can put it in different storage facilities. So the Dbms will eliminate most of the file system problem. How? It will generate stored data structure, relationship between structure, access path, take care of defining, storing, and managing all this type of data. See, we have here in our database. Here, if we want, we have the sales department, and we have one accounting department and one personal department. All of them are using different file systems to control their, let's say, data. But if I use database management system, I can take all these together into the database management system, and the database management system is going to create only one database, and everyone can access based on their desired, let's say, feature, based on their desired outcome, and so on. So the database system environment, database system, it will define and regulate the collection, storage, management, use of data. And there are 5 major parts of the database system: the hardware part, the software part, the people who are us, procedure, and data. Okay. So this is how the environment, where all tools involved in database system are interconnected to one another. So what do we mean by these 5? The hardware is like the procedure, The hardware are the physical component or the physical devices we will need in our database. The software is like the Dbms software, the operating system. Of course, we need operating system for our database, and we need the actual software for the database. So you cannot run your database without Windows, without Linux, without any operating system, depending on your type of database management system. And also we have the people. Who are the people? We have the people different. We have the end user, me and you. We have the analysts and the programmers for the database, and we have the designer, and also we have the administrator. What is the job of each? The administrator will just maintain the database. It will maintain its functioning. The designer will design the database before it starts. The system analysis and programmers will make sure that if the database need adjustment, need update in the future, they can do that. And the end user are only going to use it to store and process their data. Here we have procedures. The procedures are the instruction and rules that govern the design and the use of database systems. So, meaning what sort of operation do you want in your database? And also we have the data, which is the collection of the raw facts stored in your database system. It will be created on different level of complexity depending on your users and depending on your organization. It must be cost effective, and at the same time, it must use effect selection for the database system. We have the Dbms functions, most functions aspect, and user data dictionary management. Okay. Okay. The rest of these functions and the rest of the parts, I will give it to you as your first presentation for the next week. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now guys, the most important thing is that we know that we have different type of databases, that we know what is the difference between data and information, that in your database, now this is only a mere introduction, but when we go deep, we will understand the characteristics, we understand the type, we understand the usage, we will understand why it was updated on the file system, what is the advantages. We will see the advantages in real life, not just by like reading the chapter. We will see what is the inconsistency, what is the anomaly, and we'll be seeing all these things. So before I give you this chapter and I give you your next week task today, inshallah, I want you to make yourself into groups, and I want you to send me your names in the chat, your group names, so I can, inshallah, sign for you today.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, guys. So, inshallah, next week, inshallah, it will be like a presentation for whatever I'm going to do. We're going to do like 3 or 4 minute presentation for each one. And inshallah, I'll give you all the details today.
All right.
Okay, Doctor.
Inshallah, Doctor.
Inshallah. Thank you guys so much. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. Make a group of 4 or 5 so I can assign for you the task and write your names in the chat.
All right, Doctor.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.